Google Search Console is the most powerful SEO tool on the market, but most people are using it wrong. In this tutorial, we'll go through everything on Google Search Console SEO, including how to do keyword research with GSC, as well as technical SEO, how to see exactly how Google is indexing and crawling your website, as well as on-page SEO on how we use Google Search Console to optimize pages and give Google exactly what it wants. So this is going to be a big tutorial. We're going to go through everything that I've learned in my 7 years of SEO experience in Google Search Console and exactly how we use it to optimize our websites. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's jump into it and see what is Google Search Console all about. So the first thing you need to know on what Google Search Console is that it's data directly from Google. And so there's all kinds of tools on the market, but Google Search Console is the beautiful tool that Google has given us that actually gives us direct data from Google's big database of keywords and what they're doing. So if you haven't even set up GSC, you're going to want to search console on Google and open up your Google Search Console. Click Start Now and go through the setup process. Now, I'm going to assume you already have this set up and we're going to actually dive into SEO with Google Search Console. So what Google Search Console is pretty much the dashboard that Google gives us for how they're ranking and indexing and crawling our website. This is the most valuable data that Google ever gives us around SEO. There is so much here. It's a treasure trove of data and usability. And it tells us, a few things right off the start. So we see performance. So first off, Google Search Console gives us a place to see exact keywords that Google is ranking for us on Google, of course, as well as what pages, how many clicks those are getting from Google, all kinds of really useful data that tells us how we are performing in Google. And this is the most valuable data. You might see SEMrush data, you might see all kinds of different data sources, but this right here is the most valuable. SEMrush and all these other companies are third parties. They're not Google. This is the actual keywords that are bringing you revenue on your website. And they organize it by clicks. You have all kinds of fun stuff here. So the first part of this tutorial is we're looking at just the basics of Google Search Console. And so if you've already been a pro at Google Search Console, you may want to skip ahead just a few minutes. Because first off, we want to see the actual reports and how this all plays out. So you have your list of domains here. You're going to pick a domain, and then you have the overview report. Within here, we already see an indexing, so that sounds a little bit scary potentially. We see experience, what does that mean? Enhancements, there's all kinds of stuff here. But what really matters is this clicking full report on the performance. And here we just get how are we doing on Google? In the last 3 months or in the last 28 days, how many clicks, how many impressions, what's the CTR, what position are we ranking in Google? And we can see that on a graph to see how things have been running. And if we scroll down, we can see the actual keywords that are giving us this traffic, as well as the clicks by keywords, as well as something called impressions, which we'll jump into a little bit more. So now I'm going to show you exactly how to use these different reporting tools within the performance section of GSC. So I'm going to start with something a little bit complex, but the definition of impressions. So an impression is whenever someone sees, quote unquote, your URL or your website within Google search results. And by this, I don't actually mean they even have to see it, which is the strange thing. All they have to do is load a page that your URL is present on. So that means that if you are position 10, so you're on the first page of Google, every time someone searches that keyword, you're going to get an impression, even if they didn't scroll down to the 10th position. But the fact that they loaded a search result that included one of your pages, that counts as an impression. Now, if you're on page 2, you don't get an impression unless they actually change the page to page 2, and then they load a page or search result with your keyword on it. And these impressions are very useful. They kind of give you an idea of search volume as well as sort of the overall scope of how much traffic is there. So if you see a lot of impressions for a keyword, people are searching it a lot, especially if you're at like position 30. On page 3, that there's a lot of traffic there. So it's a very good metric for just kind of equating good keywords that you can go after that you may not be ranking well for, but you can tell there's demand for because people are seeing or searching that term and getting an impression on your URL. And so we'll go a little bit more deep into that and how you can actually use it. It's pretty simple once you start going into things. But this performance report is very useful, especially when analyzing websites and especially traffic drops and things like that. You can click this more More tab, of course you have the last 24 hours, 7 days, 28 days, and 3 months. But if you click this More tab, you can filter even more. So you can filter the last 16 months, which is very useful. And you can get a good eye view of, especially, is your traffic going down? Is it going up, right? So a lot of times, if you do the 16-month view, you can get a good grasp of, my traffic's going down. Why is that happening? Or are my impressions going down? What might be the case? And if you go to this date range, you can also put in a custom date range, although 16 months is the latest that it will give you the data. And you can also click this compare tab, and you're able to actually compare data, which again is very useful if your traffic is going down. So let's, compare the last 3 months to the previous period, or compare the last 3 months compared with last year. We can see that, traffic is 2% down and so on. And you're not going to have these little quotes. This is an extension. We'll talk about extensions a little bit later in the tutorial. But if we look at just this here, we can see last 3 months clicks for keywords, as well as the previous 3 months. So here we can see that this keyword has gone down by 3 clicks in the last 3 months compared with the previous 3 months. So this is how you can do really good SEO analysis, especially if your traffic is dropping and things like that. But let's go back and not compare anything yet and just look at the queries, pages, and really those are the main tabs down here you want to look at. So we go into queries. This just shows all the keywords that you're ranking for across Google on all of your pages. So even if you have 30,000 pages, these are all of your keywords, and you can, change it to 50 keywords per row or per page, and you can look through these. It starts off organized by clicks, which gives you really the keywords that you're already ranking for. So usually if you're getting clicks from them, you're already on the first page of Google, right? You hide a dead body on the second page of Google, so you're probably not getting clicks if you're there. But if you want to find opportunities, a lot of times you're going to organize by impressions, and that will show you more keywords, which you maybe have high clicks, high impressions, which means, you're doing great. That's pretty normal. But if you have a keyword that has high impressions and say 0 clicks, that means that there's probably an opportunity there. You might be position 8, position 9, but you can probably increase that ranking if you do a little bit of SEO work. So that's a good measure on really how to use impressions. And this list of keywords is super useful, especially if you have an established site that you can export all the keywords and analyze them and find opportunities using the impressions and all kinds of things like that. And of course, you can go up here and export as a Google Sheet to see all those keywords and do whatever you want with them, analyze them, and do your SEO thing. The next report is the pages. And just to say, with the queries, you can just take a look at this if you're a beginner and just kind of get an idea of what keywords are showing up on Google. Start searching these on Google and actually see where you are. So you might be position 3, 5, or second page. Just start finding your URLs and kind of seeing where you're ranking in all of the Google SERPs. But if we go to Pages Report, this one's extremely useful too. It actually shows every page of our website with the total clicks from all keywords that page is ranking for, as well as the total impressions for all keywords that page is ranking for. And so this is a very useful report. It shows you so much data here on which pages have opportunities and which don't. So pro tip here, pretty much 90% of the time, if you look at this page report right here, the first 20 pages on this report are going to be your biggest opportunities. It's the 80-20 of SEO. If you optimize these pages, the highest by clicks and the highest by impressions, you are probably going to get a lot more traffic. Most of these pages have already shown a preference that Google likes them. They're already ranking somewhere, so position 3, 5, maybe 1, right, which you can't really improve upon. But they're probably at like position 5. If you optimize them, you get them up to position 1, 2, 3, you're going to have the biggest impact on your SEO. And so there's so much opportunity in just going to this pages report, looking at these pages, and then actually clicking on one of these. So if I click on a URL, it will then filter into that URL and show me all the keywords that just that page is ranking for. And these are keywords that you can use on your page. You can write content about them. How many times are you using the top keywords in your content? These are all the questions you want to start asking yourself as you're seeing exactly what Google is telling you on their data on what they rank. And you see, when I clicked into this, it actually adds a filter to the page. I can see all the keywords. And if I go back to the Pages tab, now it's just this page because it added this filter. If I want to take it off, I can click this X up here. And now I'm back to the initial report, back to my pages, and maybe I click onto the next page. I check out what keywords that's ranking for. I search them on Google and I see what's happening on the SERP, and then I move forward that way. And so already this is kind of how you start to get an idea of queries, keywords your website is ranking for, pages that are ranking well. And you can, of course, order the pages by impressions to find more opportunities and just kind of get an idea of what is working on the site, what's not working, what's driving revenue and traffic and what's not driving revenue and traffic. Tons of opportunities here, and you can export all of this, just play around with it. On a big website, it's really useful to also just look at the breakout of how many keywords there are, how many keywords are generating a ton of traffic, how many keywords are just barely generating traffic, how many have a lot of impressions but low clicks. So many ways that you can use this data to just get a feel for your website and how it's ranking on Google. You don't have to, be a genius to do any of this stuff. Just look at it and have fun and click around. And so, we touch on this filter report, which we can go a little bit deeper into during this section. But really, I would say for a beginner, just play around. Have some fun with it. Like, go through these keywords, search them on Google, see where you're ranking, what pages rank well for you. Go through all these keywords and you can spend hours just doing that. And so, this is enough information to even get started. But if you want to be a little bit more advanced, there's a lot more that can be done within Google Search Console. So to start off, you also have average CTR and average position. So if you click these boxes here, you can add those into your analysis. We'll add it into the graph. It will also add it down here on a per keyword or per page basis. Now, these are actually not as useful as you might think. In general analysis, clicks and impressions are going to be the 80-20. They're only really useful for specific sort of analyses, essentially CTR. So CTR means click-through rate. So how often are people actually clicking on your result when they see it? So it's clicks by impressions, right? So people are seeing your URL, but how often are they actually clicking on it? So this kind of tells you things like how enticing is the title tag on Google, the actual listing on Google, how enticing is it? So you can sometimes find opportunities with looking at high clicks, low CTR to see like, okay, so you're getting, high clicks or high impressions, but something's wrong with the Google listing that's causing really low CTR compared to your average. You also have position. Now, position, of course, is your actual position on Google, but it's average position. And as everyone who knows uses Google Search Console, it's very rough. So like it's average impression over time. And it's usually not super accurate. It also will use all countries unless you specifically tell it in the countries tab to only use the United States. So you actually filter to the country United States. So it's, again, not the most useful data, but it can be useful, especially for certain analyses like traffic drops. You can see your position dropping, tremendously, you have a problem. And talking about filters, we can go a little bit deeper into the filter tab. So here I just added a filter for country, but if I exit out all of that, we see at the beginning, it has two little tabs here for add filter and search type web. Search type web, you're never really going to use this. I would ignore it. Click add filter and you can see the options for filtering out this data and really digging deeper here. So we have query, we have page, and these really just mean filtering by the query. So the keyword that you're ranking and you're looking at, and this is filtering by the page. And so a very good example of this is for queries and for pages. It's filtering the actual text within them. So say you want any query containing what, right? So you want to find blog post to write about. So you're going to say, what is X? Things like that. And you can see this query containing what, or you could say query containing, I don't know, if you're selling, glass cups or something like that, you might want to say glass cup, and there might be big glass cup, small glass cup, all these kind of things. And so that's one filter. And then you have page, and page is actually by the URL. So like a common example in Shopify and e-commerce is like /collections, which will show you all your collection pages, or /products. And so that'll actually show all the rankings of your specific product pages. Honestly, one even better example that I should use here is /blogs or /blog. Depending on how your website is set up with the URLs, /blog will show you all the rankings of your blog, how they're doing, where is the rankings. And so these are super useful to really break out where's their traffic coming from, especially if you have a lot of it. Is the blog accounting for 80% of traffic? It's a little bit risky, especially with AI coming into the scene a lot of that traffic could be taken up if it's all informational blog content. And so that's where you want to start to really diagnose how much traffic is coming from collections, how many traffic is coming from product pages, landing pages, local pages, service pages versus blog. All of that's useful for getting an understanding of where the traffic is coming into your website. And so that's one way that these filters can be used effectively. Okay, so we'll go deeper into filters and how to actually use regular expressions to get all kinds of cool data out of here. But even more important than that, or what I want to go into first, is using this data for on-page SEO. So on-page SEO is actually the content on your web page or your blog or your landing page or wherever it might be that's creating, SEO relevance on that document. And GSC is very powerful for this. We do it all the time in our agency, and it's very important, probably the most valuable thing you can do here, which is that if you go to the pages report, I mentioned that these, 20 pages right here are 90% of the time your biggest opportunities, both if you order by clicks as well if you order by impressions, kind of even more so by impression. And now we've learned about CTR and position, so you can also check out the CTR to see if there's any really low CTR, which normally just means that the title tag or the meta description is off. And you want to, actually search the keyword and see why that's the case, see what competitors are doing. But even more than that, there's a simple thing that nobody does. It's insane. Is that if we click on any of these pages, Google gives us the list of keywords that they're ranking the page for. And they're telling us directly that these keywords are relevant for this page of content. And I'm willing to bet you that if you look at your page right now and you just do a Control F for each one of these keywords, you copy it and you go to your page and then you click Control F and search for that keyword, that a lot of the times you have not used the keyword in the content. This is the simplest but most effective SEO on-page technique, is add in all these keywords from Google Search Console. So you might have one or two of them, right? Especially at the target keyword if you're doing SEO. But always over time, especially if you've already optimized the page, then Google is giving you more and more keywords that it's showing that page for. A lot of times there's going to be thousands of keywords in here. And you want to go through them and find what relevant keywords are you showing up for. Maybe you're position 8, maybe page 2, and you've gotten like a couple clicks for them, but you're not using them on the page. You don't have a subheading on the topic, right? There might be like, X benefits. So if you're selling something, it might be, red hat, and then you have red hat benefits or red hat cons or different colors of red hats. All of those can be incorporated in the content. You can have a subheading, here are the different colors of red hats that we sell, and then you can list them all. And each of those lists can probably be different keywords from Google Search Console. And so what this does is it not only expands your rankings, because all of these keywords you're already getting some traffic from. Google is directly telling you that. It's also, so it's increasing your overall traffic and overall keyword coverage. It's also giving your document more relevance for your target keyword, because Google is telling you that these are relevant keywords and that they connect it to the topic that you're writing on. And so, you hear these terms in SEO like keywords, entities, topics, all this stuff. Google is just giving you the entities and topics directly in Google Search Console, right? These are the main things that they're looking for in that content. So the 80-20 of on-page is getting the keywords from Google Search Console onto your page. And also, if there's subtopics like benefits or side effects of X, then talk a little bit deeper about it. So you also want to answer that question. So if they're asking a question like benefits, you actually want to list out the benefits on the page. And so it kind of gives you an idea of what kind of on-page content is missing on this page, what opportunities are on that page. This is huge for on-page SEO. So if you're not using Google Search Console for on-page, there's a big opportunity here. I highly recommend you start doing this kind of thing. So we went through the basics of Google Search Console, how to view the reports, how to compare dates and filter the different data, as well as how to actually use that data for on-page SEO, looking at how to use and find the keywords to use on your page, as well as which pages are the biggest opportunities with the pages report. And I briefly mentioned, and I want to go a little bit deeper into it, is that you can also, if you clear your filters and you have the pages report open here, you can also look at impressions and then find low CTR opportunities like this and click on that. And then you'll actually open the page and look at the SEO title tag. And what I like to do too is just search the actual keyword. So you just copy it and search it on Google and then see what kind of title tag or description is on that page and see if it needs some help. A lot of times you're going to just see what other people are doing and see if there's a reason there's a low CTR there. Why might they not be ranking? And I will be honest, a lot of times Google Search Console can get things wrong because it uses all kinds of average data. So, maybe the average CTR is bad, but right now you're ranking #1. And so you kind of have to use your best judgment. Some of the average CTR and position data is a little bit obscure, I'll say. And you also will want to segment it by United States, because maybe you have really bad CTR and position in Russia, but you don't care about Russia, right? So there's all kinds of stuff. But that's really the core of the on-page section. So in the keyword research section here in just a minute, we're going to go deeper into how to use regular expressions to filter and find really amazing keywords, like question keywords, all kinds of different fun stuff. And we're also going to look at how to find opportunity keywords that you can start ranking for that you're not ranking for. But I want to just briefly go through the rest of this and then touch on technical SEO, because I think a lot of people know this sort of analysis for SEO stuff, but they may not be aware of how powerful the technical SEO is in Google Search Console. And, to finish up with here, you have a couple other tabs, which is countries, devices, search appearance, and dates. They're not as useful. So devices can be interesting because you can see the breakout of your traffic from desktop, mobile, and tablet, but it's mostly just kind of an analysis point of like, oh, that's interesting. Usually, majority is from mobile. So it's all an interesting piece of data, but it's not super actionable. You can sometimes see if mobile is like really lacking because maybe your website's not good for mobile. So your rankings are way down there. Your average position's way down on mobile. That would be an indication that your mobile website has a problem, whether that's technical or otherwise. You definitely need to figure it out. Search and appearance can be kind of useful too, because you have like the product snippets and different stuff like that. You can also look at, video results, image results, news. All of this stuff can be kind of useful. You can look at it as a day basis. So if you're on 6 months, it'll actually show you January 28th, January 27th, and all your data. But again, this kind of gets into the weeds of like deep analysis, which you usually don't need. So I'm not going to go too deep into that, but you can play around with it, especially given your use cases. I would also go ahead and try exporting this so that you can see it in a spreadsheet like here and see your clicks, impressions, CTR. And you can manipulate and filter this data within Sheets, especially if you're comfortable in there. Lots of fun stuff you can do there. But now we're going to actually jump into another report on Google Search Console. We got to keep it interesting. So, we went through the performance report, but something that a lot of people don't know is Google Search Console is the best technical SEO tool there is. Google is telling you how they're indexing your pages within this indexing report. And it's very powerful to review this report, especially if you feel like you might have tech problems, if you have a big website. You really need to know how Google is crawling and indexing your website. And so you start off with just this non-index versus index pages, but you're not actually really worried about this sheet here. I mean, it's interesting. Sometimes you can see like, oh, your index pages went down by a lot, and that's going to be worrying, right? Or your non-index pages are doing something strange. But really what you want to do is go down and say this field, why pages aren't indexed. These are the ones that aren't being served on Google. So you have a major problem if Google is not even showing your pages to users, and there's a problem with that. Almost every GSC is going to have a list of issues here. I'm going to go and tell you actually the ones that matter and which are kind of, so that you don't have to worry about. Right off the bat, page with it redirect, I don't care as much about. The main thing I care about here is the 404 pages. So you probably heard of a 404 page. If you haven't, it's essentially an error page. So Google landed on a page and it tells you, hey, this is an empty page. Shouldn't really exist. These are definitely problems. You don't want Google to be encountering a lot of 404 pages. There's a vast reasons for this, but I'm not going to go too deep into it. Just know that you want to clean those up. And how you clean those up is that you export them and then you redirect them within whatever website you're using. So like if it's Shopify, WordPress, you create redirects and you can learn that online. Another report that I care a lot about is soft 404s. Same reason as the 404, you don't want Google hitting those. But the next one that is you do not get this report anywhere else is the crawled currently not indexed and discovered currently not indexed. And this website only have the crawled, but you also find a lot of times the discovered not currently indexed. These are pages that Google is literally not indexing. And so sometimes you'll open up this report and you'll find some of your money pages, like some of the pages that you want to rank and that you're trying to rank, you're optimizing them, and Google's just not indexing them. And so it's super important to go into this report and see which pages Google isn't indexing. On average, usually you'll look into here and you'll see a bunch of useless pages. So even here we see a bunch of like weird, parameter URLs and all kinds of kind of crazy stuff. What this tells me is that you should clean these URLs up. So ideally they shouldn't exist, or they should have like a no index tag, or, robots.txt tell Google to not crawl them, because they are being crawled. But here's where you can start to see like what kind of pages. And I would go through this report because a lot of times, I would say almost all the time, you have a bunch of wild pages that you don't really care about. And then hidden in that list, you'll find a page that you actually want indexed. So once you find a page that you want indexed, you can look at it and you're actually able to click on it and you can inspect URL. And this will retrieve data directly from Google's index. So we see URL is not on Google, and we can even request indexing. So if you do have a page that you want indexed and it's not indexing, you can request indexing. You can click this here and then it will take like a minute or two, but it will index. It also tells you what page is linked to this page. So if there's a lot of pages that shouldn't be in Google's index, you can see if they're being linked anywhere on the website. And that's a URL inspection tool. It's quite useful. You can also test live URL and actually see the HTML code that Google is getting back. So this is really useful for technical SEO to see what does Google actually see. And no other tool will tell you this. It'll show you the actual HTML. So if you're questioning, I have this pop-up on my website with additional SEO content. It's made in some programming language that you never worked with before. Is Google actually getting that content, or is that content hidden to Google? This will actually tell you that. And so it's very powerful to test out, different page types and see how Google is seeing the HTML. And an important note is that you can also inspect any of these URLs within the search performance report too. So if you're going through your pages and you're curious how a certain page is viewed by Google, whether it's indexed, it's going to be indexed if it's getting traffic, but we can retrieve the data from the Google index by clicking there. And then this area I was just talking about, which I let it load. So I paused and let it load. It takes a while, but if you click test live URL, then this view crawled page will pop up. If you click this is a very powerful report that most people do not know or use for their SEO. It actually shows you the HTML that Google is crawling directly. So this is quite literally exactly what Google is seeing on your page. The exact content, the exact code, and they even give you a screenshot. So if we click here, it seems to not be loading right now, but if I test live URL, it might load again. But they'll give you a screenshot of what their bot is seeing as well. And so you have a lot of data here. I'm going to cancel that for now. You also have more information, so you can see some of the nerdy tech stuff, page resources. It looks like some resources couldn't load. But this HTML is really useful, especially if you have content or you have questions like, maybe you have a page that's using a lot of JavaScript and you don't really know if Google is crawling all of the JavaScript content. You can run it through here and see what content Google is seeing. Because if you have a problem with Google seeing your content, you have a very big problem, which means a very big opportunity, because you can fix that, you can change the JavaScript, and then you can get Google seeing thousands of pages with real good content. And so this inspect root tool is very useful in your SEO toolkit. So we're in this page indexing report. We've talked a lot here about how Google is indexing and crawling your website and how you can directly see that, as well as directly see how Google sees your website, the code on your website, what they're actually seeing. And by doing this technical SEO work, what you should see is something like this, which is that Google is starting to index a lot more pages. Especially if you have a large website, you need to make sure that you're cleaning up a lot of this stuff. And it can get dirty. So even here, we have tons of errors, but we've still been able to slowly clean out this report and help the SEO better. Some other reports that you have to be aware of. Again, I'm not too worried about a lot of this stuff. You can click in and see all the URLs that Google is talking about. But some of the ones I really care about is the status code errors. So that's 404, soft 404, and especially 5xx errors. These are server errors. Very bad for Google. They do not like it one bit. Any other 4xx issue is good. Forbidden, you want to check out all of that. And then, as I mentioned, this crawled currently not indexed. And then here's an example of the discovered not indexed. Both of those are really important. I would say discovered currently not indexed actually seems to include more important URLs that should be indexed, which are not. And so I usually check out this first. Lots of interesting opportunities here, especially if you have a big website that is not getting indexed correctly, because crawl budget and all this big, jargon. But all of that is really useful. useful. So I would check out those reports. I would redirect the error codes to a real page that's working using a 301 redirect. You can look up that and how to perform that. But it's very useful to kind of check out some of this stuff. You can also see index, though blocked by robots.txt. All kinds of fun, nerdy SEO stuff. We're going to jump back into technical SEO in just a moment, but I do want to show you regular expressions because they're a lot of fun. So we have the indexing report with pages, videos, sitemaps, and removals. Most of those, again, there's so many things on this dashboard here on the side. Most of them don't matter, right? So what really matters is overview and page indexing. Overview shows you on-page stuff, so performance really. Indexing shows you how Google is indexing and crawling your website. And if we go into the performance report, we can do something pretty cool, which is that we can add a filter to find just certain types of keywords or types of pages. Because we have right here, we have 1,000 keywords, tons of keywords here. We can add a filter and click query. And under this filter, we can click queries containing and we can do custom rejects. This is regular expression and we want to say matches regular expression. And so what we're going to add in here is what's called a regular expression. And all it is saying is a multiple conditions. So if the keyword includes any of these question keywords, so who, what, when, where, how, why, anything like that, do, is, are. So these are the ones here. And you can get a sentence that, or a regular expression that includes even more of these. But if we apply this, what it's going to say is it's going to grab all of the keywords within the console that include one of these keywords. So how to, is this, how to, what is, all of these kind of question keywords. They're already generating some traffic. They already have impressions. These are huge opportunities. People might be asking these questions, but you don't have a real page on it. But one of your other pages is, picking up some traffic for that keyword. You can create a new page and then you have a perfect blog post, perfect piece of content. You can support other pieces of content, all kinds of cool stuff. And you can do all kinds of regular expressions. There's a great guy. There's a lot of guys on here. You can use ChatGPT too. Search regular expression or REGEX for SEO. There's this guy, Python for SEO. Shouts out to him, JC. He has a really good guide here on how to use regular expressions too. And Google hit him pretty hard as well. All kinds of cool tech SEO stuff you can learn from him. So I had to share that with you guys. I know it was a little bit off of the flow, but it's just too fun of a feature. You can use these regular expressions to get really interesting data and opportunities on your SEO strategy. So definitely don't sleep on just playing around with these filters. Definitely something you want to do. Next, I'm going to show a very common area that some people mess up, which is sitemaps. A Google Search Console is a place where you submit to your sitemap. That tells Google the structure of your website and how it works. So you want to make sure that these are submitted and that the status is successful. There's no problems with it, especially if you have a large website. And then beyond that, I want to go to somewhere that nobody goes to, but it is really useful for technical SEO, which is if you go into your settings, you can actually go into settings and then scroll down and you'll see this here, crawl stats. And we can see, X crawl requests in the last 90 days. Open up this report and you can actually see how Google is crawling your website on a day-by-day basis. So how many crawl requests is their web spider making? And how many times is Google going to your website? You can also see the hosts. So the www versus normal website versus if you have subdomains, you have all of that. And you also have crawl requests by type. So not found versus okay versus 301. So like in this case, we see 6% is 404 errors of their crawl requests. That's a big problem. You need to really fix that. You have file type, but really this response code is the most important, but you also have Google bot type. You can kind of get a little bit deep in here. Sometimes you have host issues. So like if they have too many subdomains, there might be some problems there. But this report is very interesting. You can also see sometimes Google will be crawling your website a lot. Sometimes it won't be. So you can do some advanced technical SEO with this settings report here. And if you're an e-com, you also have enhancements here. So this will tell you how many reviews, so the little stars in the Google search results are showing up on your pages. So how many are valid versus invalid. You can see they're going up. The last thing you want to see is them going down or somebody messes something up on the website and then they go to 0. You can see your FAQ schema, your breadcrumb schema. All of this is just kind of more technical stuff where you can see how Google is doing it all. If you're within shopping, you also have shopping and shopping snippets and merchant listings. Again, you just mainly want to check that these are valid. There's some issues here, then you need to check it out and research it. Core Web Vitals, I don't believe that they're actually a ranking factor. If anything, a very minor one. Page speed and user experience are important, so you want to make sure that those are really tight. But this core web vitals, I'm usually actually not very worried about. I haven't seen it affect SEO in any serious way if you try to improve this to be perfect. You mainly just want to think about your users and your website. If you're sending ads to a website and stuff like that, you should already be thinking of having a good website that's fast and user experience is good. Removals is if you have some crazy URLs like in that crawled not indexed report. You can also submit requests for Google to remove those entirely, especially if they're getting actually indexed. So sometimes you'll see in your Google Search Console a lot of pages that are getting indexed and have impressions. So it's not even crawled not indexed, it's actually indexed. And you really want to get rid of those if they're useless pages. We talked briefly about sitemaps. Just make sure that your sitemap is set up correctly. That's important for tech SEO. If you do a lot of videos, you can kind of get an interesting video indexing report here. And you also have the Discover page, which again is not too important. I think that's about all the reports you should actually care about. So as you notice, we really went through the ones that mattered. There is also this links report, which I don't use much, but it does tell you the external links and internal links towards the website, as well as the top linking pages. It can be interesting, but again, I think Ahrefs and backlinked people, services like that are actually more useful data. I think it's cleaner and everything like that. And so really, that's how to use Google Search Console. You're gonna wanna really play around in the performance report. That's where you're gonna spend most of your time, especially if you're a newer website wanting to optimize stuff and figure out how things are going. Keep track of this. You know, when you optimize a page, go in here and look at it a month later and see what keywords are actually being picked up for that page. This is the core use of Google Search Console. If you get used to it, as well as adding those keywords into the page, you'll have a lot better SEO results than ever before. If you do have a big website and are worried about technical SEO, you do want to check out that page indexing report, see what Google is telling you, as well as the settings report to see how Google is crawling your pages, how they're reading your pages, and making sure that everything is understandable for Google. You don't have to worry too deeply about technical SEO, but you do need to make sure that your pages are getting indexed and that Google is not wasting their time, especially if you have a big website with 10,000 pages or something like that. You definitely need to be aware of it. But overall, those are the main pieces of Google Search Console. It's really looking at this performance report, checking out the technical SEO, checking out how Google is crawling and indexing your pages. Another very nice thing you can do within here is the keyword data. It's so useful and you can get a lot of it. So this last piece of value I'm going to provide to you is how to export all of the keyword data. Because with a large website, you'll see it limits it to 1,000. But if we change this 500 and we go all the way down, you see the last result is still 2 clicks. So we know that there is 1 click keywords that is not showing up in Google Search Console. Google Search Console will limit a lot of data, and Google is known for this. But the way you can bypass this is by using Looker Studio. There's a couple ways to bypass it, but Looker Studio works well. There's also Google Search Console tool, which is a plugin. It's a little Google Chrome extension that can also help. So to get all the data, you're going to jump into Looker Studio, create a new report, and then you're going to connect it to Google Search Console. And so you're going to find in this list Search Console, click on that, and then you're going to click whatever website you want, and you can click, I believe, site impression or URL impression, but I may be proved wrong. And when you add that to the report, you can then create a table and with all the keywords there. And so you're just going to drag over query here. You're going to take out property because that doesn't matter. And we can see there's 1,194 keywords by clicks. And you can add in impressions if you want that data too. It's going to be down here. And then what you can do is you can simply export this sheet to a CSV or a Google Sheets. And there you go. You have all your data. I use a different website, but if the website I was looking at, I think it has like 20,000 keywords. So just think about how many more keywords that is than what you get with normal Google Search Console. So anyway, I hope that this helped. I'm in love with Google Search Console. I'm a big nerd, I know. But if you're in love with it too, comment below. Let me know what you thought of the tutorial, what you want to hear next. I'm sure there's things I missed in Google Search Console. And so let me know if you want to learn anything more. There's definitely a lot in e-com SEO if you want to dig deeper into that. There's also a lot more in tech SEO if you want to get real nerdy. And so let me know what you thought. Drop a heart in the comment if you want to support the channel, like the video, all of that good stuff. And subscribe. We will be doing tons of new videos on all kinds of topics like this. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And I hope that you continue learning Google Search Console, and I hope I can be a small part in that. So thank you. If you are a company looking for SEO services, we do offer it. We have a lot of in-house expertise with all kinds of SEO, technical SEO, and things like that. So I hope you have a good one. If you are interested in services, the link is below.